喝汤了，起床了，喝汤了。你怎么变这个样子啊？你怎么？
哦，没有，我只是最近迷上了新的游戏机，每天打到早上30点。哦，那些游戏真的非常的好玩，那些怪兽都非常的强，有些刀枪不入，还有的呢，他们都是有超级的能力，这是非常。
OK， 好，到，赶快从你电男宅男世界里面出来吧，喝汤，汤都冷了。怎么你看到了？
好痛啊！哎呦，奇怪，我嘴巴怎么破洞了？
嘴巴破洞，一定是你作息太不正常，一天到晚都熬夜，所以嘴巴才会烂掉。我要照镜子了你看看你的黑眼圈，跟团团圆超像的啦。
我的洞破了1个礼拜嘞。
那你要小心哦，不可以忽视这种小毛病。你知不知道是嘴巴溃烂呢？超过2个星期都还没好，最好要去看医生哦。因为嘴巴溃烂了，你有可能就淋巴肿大，然后最后有可能就变成口腔炎。
什么？太恐怖了！
赶快把你的作息调成正常吧，不要仗着自己年轻就肆无忌惮的熬夜逞强。
肆无忌惮？我现在连汤都不能喝，你还要我吃鸡蛋干什么？不行，对，我现在开始要做健康的生活，我要早睡早起，我要身体好。
许多证据显示，熬夜除了会引起疲劳、头痛、视力障碍、情绪激动、注意力下降、工作效率降低之外，也会造成我们精神上的不安、混乱、忧郁跟妄想的发作。尤其在降低认知功能、影响短期记忆，并造成心情方面的改变。除此之外，我们知道长时间的熬夜还会造成许多的慢性病。为什么会造成以上的疾病？因为事实上，熬夜已经破坏我们人体这个心脏的这个自律神经的活性。一般根据流行病学的统计，有1/3的人口有睡眠的障碍。而这些有睡眠障碍的人，事实上在以前的生活习惯中，往往都是因为工作还是娱乐方面的熬夜，进一步才造成这些慢性的睡眠障碍。
What I'd like to do today is talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the neuroscience of sleep. Now, there is a sound. It worked. a sound that is desperately familiar to most of us, and of course it's the sound of the alarm clock. And what that truly ghastly, awful sound does is stop the single most important behavioral experience that we have, and that's sleep. If you're an average sort of person, 36% of your life will be spent asleep, which means that if you live to 90, then 32 years will have been spent entirely asleep. Now, what that 32 years is telling us, that sleep at some level is important. And yet for most of us, we don't give sleep a second thought. We throw it away. We really just don't think about sleep. And so what I'd like to do today is change your views, change your ideas and your thoughts about sleep. And the journey that I want to take you on, we need to start by going back in time. Enjoy the honey-heavy dew of slumber. Any ideas who said that? Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Yes, let me give you a few more quotes. O sleep, O gentle sleep, nature's soft nurse, how have I frighted thee? Shakespeare again from, I won't say it, the Scottish play. From the same time, sleep is the golden chain that ties health and our bodies together. Extremely prophetic, by Thomas Dekker, another Elizabethan dramatist. But if we jump forward 400 years, the tone about sleep changes somewhat. This is from Thomas Edison from the beginning of the 20th century. Sleep is a criminal waste of time and a heritage from our cave days. Bang! And if we also jump into the 1980s, some of you may remember that Margaret Thatcher was reported to have said, sleep is for wimps. And of course, the infamous, what was his name? The infamous Gordon Gekko from Wall Street said, money never sleeps. What do we do in the 20th century about sleep? Well, of course, we used Thomas Edison's light bulb to invade the night, and we occupied the dark. And in the process of this occupation, we've treated sleep as an illness, almost. We've treated it as an enemy. At most now, I suppose, we tolerate the need for sleep, and at worst, perhaps many of us think of sleep as an illness that needs some sort of a cure. And our ignorance about sleep is really quite profound. Why is it? Why do we abandon sleep in our thoughts? Well, it's because you don't do anything much while you're asleep, it seems. You don't eat, you don't drink, and you don't have sex. Well, most of us anyway. And so therefore it's a complete waste of time, right? Wrong. Actually, sleep is an incredibly important part of our biology, and neuroscientists are beginning to explain why it's so very important. So let's move to the brain. Now, here we have a brain. This is donated by a social scientist, and they said they didn't know what it was or indeed how to use it. So, so I borrowed it. I don't think they noticed. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is that when you're asleep, this thing doesn't shut down. In fact, some areas of the brain are actually more active during the sleep state than during the wake state. The other thing that's really important about sleep is that it doesn't arise from a single structure within the brain, but is to some extent a network property. And if we flip the brain on its back, I love this little bit of spinal cord here, this bit here is the hypothalamus. And right under there is a whole raft of interesting structures, not least the biological clock. The biological clock tells us when it's good to be up, when it's good to be asleep. We've said that sleep is complicated, and it takes 32 years of our life. But what I haven't explained is what sleep is about. So why do we sleep? And it won't surprise any of you that, of course, as scientists, we don't have a consensus. There are dozens of different ideas about why we sleep. And I'm going to outline 3 of those. The first is sort of the restoration idea, and it's somewhat intuitive. Essentially, all the stuff we've burnt up during the day, we restore, we replace, we rebuild during the night. And indeed, as an explanation, it goes back to Aristotle. So that's what, 2,300 years ago. It's gone in and out of fashion. It's fashionable at the moment because what's been shown is that within the brain, a whole raft of genes have been shown to be turned on only during sleep. And those genes are associated with restoration and metabolic pathways. So there's good evidence for the whole restoration hypothesis. What about energy conservation? Again, perhaps intuitive. You essentially sleep to save calories. Now, when you do the sums, though, it doesn't really pan out. If you compare an individual who has slept at night or stayed awake and hasn't moved very much, the energy saving of sleeping is about 110 calories a night. Now, that's the equivalent of a hot dog bun. Now, I would say that a hot dog bun is kind of a meager return for such a complicated and demanding behavior as sleep. So I'm less convinced by the energy conservation idea. But the third idea I'm quite attracted to, which is brain processing and memory consolidation. What we know is that if after you've tried to learn a task and you sleep-deprive individuals, the ability to learn that task is smashed. It's really hugely attenuated. So sleep and memory consolidation is also very important. However, it's not just the laying down of memory and recalling it. What's turned out to be really exciting is that our ability to come up with novel solutions to complex problems is hugely enhanced by a night of sleep. In fact, it's been estimated to give us a 3-fold advantage. Sleeping at night enhances our creativity. And what seems to be going on is that in the brain, those neural connections that are important, those synaptic connections that are important, are linked and strengthened, while those that are less important tend to sort of fade away and be less important. Okay, so we've had 3 explanations for why we might sleep. And I think the important thing to realize is that the details will vary, and it's probably we sleep for multiple different reasons. But sleep is not an indulgence. It's not some sort of thing that we can take on board rather casually. I think sleep was once likened to an upgrade from economy to business class, you know, the equivalent of. It's not even an upgrade from economy to first class. The critical thing to realize is that if you don't sleep, you don't fly. Essentially, you never get there. And what's extraordinary about much of our society these days is that we are desperately sleep deprived. So let's now look at sleep deprivation. Huge sectors of society are sleep deprived, and let's look at our sleepometer. So in the 1950s, good data suggests that most of us were getting around about 8 hours of sleep a night. Nowadays, we sleep 1.5 to 2 hours less every night. So we're in the sort of 6.5 hours every night league. For teenagers, it's worse, much worse. They need 9 hours for full brain performance, and many of them on a school night are only getting 5 hours of sleep. It's simply not enough.
如果一个人一直不睡觉，到底能撑多久？睡觉是人的一种生理反应，大脑皮质内神经细胞在长时间兴奋之后，就会产生抑制作用。这种作用会使人想睡觉，晚上睡不着，其实是因为你的大脑还很兴奋。
一个主意来，看光盘。
在这一刻，他不是一个人在战斗。
你们这是自寻死路。
打哈欠是困的第一个信号。正常人如果连续18个小时没有睡觉，除了不停地打哈欠、流眼泪以外，大脑的反应时间也会从0.25秒变为0.5秒，并且还会随着不睡觉的时间延长而继续变长。
快点啊，等的花都谢了。
到了20个小时，正常人的反应速度基本等同于血液中酒精含量为0.08%的人。若保持这个数值驾车，你将有机会成为很多国家看守所的座上宾。在这个全民缺觉的时代，能睡到自然醒是我和我的小伙伴们最美好的愿望。但是很多人都不珍惜睡眠的时间。
Sir, may I remind you that you've been awake for nearly 72 hours?
Focus up, ladies. Good evening.
不过在不睡觉这方面，钢铁侠和现实中的人比起来就弱爆了。现实中，一名美国的中学生在1964年创造了一直保持清醒264个小时的记录。目前所知的研究中，正常人能一直保持清醒的时间为8到10天。虽然参与实验的人没有出现严重的不适反应，但是随着睡意的不断增加，他们都表现出了注意力下降、动作迟缓和知觉减退等症状。这意味着，虽然我们可以连续好几天保持清醒，但最终都会以认知功能出现障碍这种状况结束。目前科学家对人为什么要睡觉的原因尚无定论。最主流的观点认为，人必须通过睡觉恢复体力、解除疲劳，但是睡觉的时间一定不要超过9小时，因为睡久了也会导致身体疲倦，久而久之，人就会变得懒惰无力，甚至智力也会随之下降。所以那些是要与床相守到天崩地裂、海枯石烂的亲们，为了身体健康，还是挥剑斩情丝吧。
To better your health and your sleep, try some of these tips. Develop a pre-bedtime wind-down routine that you complete every night to prepare yourself for sleep. It's not just for kids. Make your room as dark as possible. This will optimize your body's melatonin production, the natural hormone that regulates your sleep patterns. Special blackout curtains can help with this. Distance yourself from electronic and Wi-Fi devices that emit light and other electromagnetic currents that can disrupt sleep. Make the temperature in your home as comfortable as possible as you prepare to go to sleep. Most people turn the thermostat down a few degrees. After you've implemented these steps, it's time to get personal with your sleep. Dedicate a weekend to determining how much sleep you need. On a relaxed Friday night, set yourself up for a good night's sleep by following the steps we've covered. Don't set your alarm for Saturday morning, just let your body wake on its own. Do the same thing Sunday morning, and record when you go to sleep and when you wake up naturally. The amount of sleep you get with no interruptions will be a good reflection of how much sleep your body needs each night. Armed with this information, do your best to sleep the same number of hours each night. Even if you're unable to get the amount of sleep you'd like, you can still utilize these steps to improve the quality of your sleep. And remember the acronym BED. Bedtime routine, electronics, dark. Here's to a good night's sleep.